Bonjour. Hello and welcome to a new episode of So French. In this show we give you everything about the twists and turns of French politics and an insight to all things French.
Every 2 weeks we select the best, most interesting and fascinating of French news stories, all brought to you from a studio in the heart of Paris. My name is Stefan de Vries.
And my name is Sara Bertilsson.
And this week, well, the French are not known for speaking English fluently. Our guest Giuseppe Fantigrossi of the startup Play to Speak will explain us why that is the case and, more importantly, how the French can improve their foreign language skills.
All of us, maybe.
All of us, maybe, indeed. Yeah.
And the culture ministry official who drugged hundreds of young women to make them urinate in front of him. A, quote, crazy pervert, says the minister. But how come he wasn't stopped?
But first, this week it has been 1 year already that the Yellow Vests started their protest, and they are still continuing. Every Saturday there are demonstrations in many cities all around France. And this week also the French president is exactly in the middle of his first mandate. He has 2.5 years more to go. So it's a coincidence, of course, but it's not good news for Emmanuel Macron, because in 2 weeks, on December the 5th, then there is a national unlimited strike that will begin in public transportation, but probably also in schools, hospitals and other public services. So the government is preparing for a complicated winter with a lot of social protest, while still wanting to continue its very necessary reforms. Now, Sarah, let's talk about the Gilets jaunes first, the Yellow Vests. What can we say after a year of these sometimes very violent protests?
What we can say is that 1 year on, the protest movement has very much changed, and we don't see it as much. I mean, we do remember the 17th of November last year when all of this kicked off, and it continued and got even worse and worse weekend after weekend, all up to Christmas. And we saw many famous the most famous avenue in Paris, Champs-Élysées, maybe was the image that was the most broadcast, being completely ruined after rioting in the streets. We saw over months extremely violent clashes between police and protesters. It did continue for months, or many months, but after summer, this year, 2019, there has been a sharp decrease in the number of protesters. And you do still have smaller numbers, a couple of hundreds maybe, demonstrating in different places still on Saturdays. But, I mean, we don't see it as much, and definitely not those violent clashes that we saw, especially around Christmas last year.
Now, of course, I think people all around the world have seen images of these protests. The Yellow Vests, of course, a pretty smart move to put on this Yellow Vests.
Definitely, very marketing-wise and branding-wise.
Yeah, absolutely. And
it
it became a symbol, I think, even in Chile. You see people wearing yellow vests now. But of course, I think a lot of people have the images of the violent confrontations between the protesters and the police in France in a way you hardly ever see in other European countries.
Absolutely. We had more than 10,000 arrests.
Yeah.
10,000 arrests over during this year. More than 3,000 condemnations, and among them 400 to prison terms. So this was definitely very, very violent. What is interesting, though, because the whole debate has also, of course, been about police violence. Yeah. There have been a lot of accusations and allegations of police using unnecessary force and violence to contain these protesters. Interestingly enough, is that there were 212 investigations opened into alleged police violence. So far, only 2 police officers have been charged, and more than half of these investigations have already been dismissed.
Yeah,
and this, of course, is something that still remains, and the lack of confidence in the police and the security forces, and the idea of the French police being over violent is, I think, something that unfortunately is one of the things that that remains in people's minds after these
Yeah, absolutely. And this week there was also a police officer who published a book, and he gave his account of the violence, and he admitted that especially on the 1st of December and the 8th of December, when the protests got really, really violent last year, that they shot sometimes 20 to 30, 40 rubber bullets, pretty dangerous weapons actually, that caused the loss of eyes and limbs of many people, whereas usually they only fire one or two because it has to be used very carefully. But he said, or he explained, that he was in charge of the security around the Élysée Palace, so the palace of Emmanuel Macron, and that there were about 80 police officers up against 3,000 violent protesters, and the police officers that were charged by guarding the palace, they really didn't know what to do. They feared for their lives, and they thought, well, they are going to storm the palace. And this police officer also said that his superiors, they had no idea what was going on, that they gave completely wrong orders. It was a complete mess. But of course, it's not good for the...
No, I mean, this is one of the things as well, the lack of organization and a plan for the security forces. And the strategy to use in this kind of situation has been very criticized as well throughout the year, but I think also still today. I'm not sure that they've actually... what kind of conclusions they drew from all this mess that we saw. But I mean, definitely it would be wrong to put all the responsibility on the individual police officers, of course.
Absolutely, yeah. And the use of tear gas, which is really rare in the rest of Europe, is almost standard at any demonstration here in France. This is about the police, but there is also an impact on the economy. Of course, we've seen the images of shops being burned down, destroyed at the Champs-Élysées, but also in other areas of Paris. What is the economical impact of the yellow vests in the
Well,
past
when we
year?
saw all those shops, being destroyed and many city centers being more or less shut down the weeks before Christmas last year, you could have the idea that, the French economy took a big hit of these protests. But actually now, 1 year after, we can say, well, the economists at least say that the impact on the economy, the French economy globally, is, so small that it doesn't have, doesn't make any difference. It did have an impact on the last trimester, the last quarter, of 2018, the Christmas shopping and all of that. But in overall, it did not affect the French economy. However, on an individual level, or on, for certain stores and shop owners, of course, they lost a lot of their revenues. They could lose up to 20-30% of their monthly revenues in the Christmas shop, during the Christmas shopping, for example. So, I mean, some individuals having been very hardly hit by these protests. But yes, so you have that cost. But then you also have, of course, the cost that this protest had for society in general, because, mobilizing all these police officers, it costs a lot of money. They have to do overtime, and that costs a lot of money. I think they're calculating about 46 million euros.
For the police
alone?
For the
police, just the overtime.
Overtime, okay.
Yes.
Wow.
There was also this, we remember this, the protests, they started as a protest against the carbon tax here in France. And then it was also they were also protesting against the lowering of speed limits.
Yeah.
From 90 to 80 on certain roads here in France. And there were a lot of radars that were destroyed. Radars that controls the speed limits of cars.
Yeah.
And more than 3,000 radars were actually either destroyed completely or
vandalized
during the movement. 71 million euros to replace these.
Yeah, and also I read that because of these radars have been destroyed, they were not able to collect over 500 million euros in speed tickets because they were. So that's also a loss, of course.
Yeah, also a loss.
Yeah.
And then finally, all of this, of course, forced the government to change their tactics, to change their plan and their political program. Emmanuel Macron put forward a program for 10 billion euros with tax cuts and a whole lot of other measures to improve the economic situation for those in France who have the lowest incomes.
Yeah, so these are the yellow vests 1 year this year. But these are not the only unhappy people, right? Because this winter is going to be really hot for Emmanuel Macron and his government. What's on the menu for the next couple of weeks?
Well, this week we've seen, to begin with, a massive strike within the hospital strike.
Yeah.
People working, nurses, even doctors, everyone working in the public sector, hospital public sector. And they are, of course, they're demanding a major investment in the public hospitals here in France because the infrastructure is not working anymore. I mean, the buildings themselves are falling apart in many places. They don't have the technical instruments, or the instruments that they need. Their salaries are far below, in many cases at least, below the European European levels.
Yeah.
They have been protesting this week. And then you also, adding to that, is the students. And we had a very serious case 2 weeks ago with a young student, a student in Lyon, who actually even put himself on fire to protest against the difficult life for many students here in France. And there are studies that show that I think 30% of French students live under the poverty limit.
Yeah. So this was a spontaneous action, but it's in other student cities as well.
A full movement, and we have seen over the last week many universities protesting and students' organizations demanding something to be done for the situation for many of the students here.
Yeah, and then of course the 5th of December, a national transportation strike will start, unlimited, and that's what they've said, maybe until far beyond Christmas. No trains, no buses, no metros. It's going to be a big mess. The French need to get their bikes out of the garage again.
Must be said though that this program and this package put forward by Macron as a response to the Yellow Vest protests has improved the purchasing power of the French on an average level, and especially those who have a very low wage jobs. So, I mean, there has been an improvement in the situation, but maybe not strong enough. And when it comes to the transport strike that we're going to see is, of course, regarding another reform that will be put forward by the government. So they're sort of showing off their muscles ahead of those negotiations. Absolutely.
And there will be a very difficult test for Emmanuel Macron, especially only 3 months ahead of the local elections in March 2020. It's going to be a difficult winter this year for the French government.
Vous écoutez So French.
You are listening to So French.
Stefan, this is a very strange story, and it sort of makes you smile a little bit, but it's also a very, very horrifying one. This is the one, a very perverse story about a civil servant working at the culture ministry here in France.
At the very chic Ministry of Culture, I would say, in the Palais Royal in Paris, a beautiful building, a very well-placed civil servant. Well, this is a really weird story. He has been charged with sexual assault and drug offenses. And now comes the strange part, for drugging women with diuretics to make them urinate in front of them. And
how did he do this?
Yeah, it's really weird because it has been going on for 10 years. And Christian N is his name. He's a former human resources director in the Ministry of Culture. He's accused of preying on over 200 women between 2009 and 2018. And what he did, he actually invited women in his office, offered them a cup of tea or coffee. A lot of women were actually there for a job interview, and he put diuretics in the drink, so that made the ladies want to go to the bathroom. They needed to pee, but before they needed to pee, he took them on a long walking tour of sites near the Culture Ministry in Paris. It's of course in the heart of the city, not far from the Seine. And while they were walking along the Seine, these women, well, they suddenly had absolutely to urinate. It was a physical response to what he put in their drinks. And then the man, he took them to the banks of the Seine River and he offered to shield them from view with his coat while the ladies relieved themselves under a bridge, for instance. And while they were doing this, the man was looking.
This is such a humiliating
absolutely
situation. And you would wonder, so you say that this is 10 years.
10 years, yeah.
During 10 years. How come this was not revealed earlier?
Well, that's the big question, of course. There is a lady who says she informed the two previous ministers of culture, to women, by the way, and she never got a reply. So this was going on. Well, some people knew it was going on, but apparently some whistleblowers, they were not taken seriously. And it gives you an idea about the authoritarian or hierarchic structure at the Ministry of Culture. It's a very chic ministry. The people who work there, they think very highly of themselves. And of course, if you work there, you don't want to lose your job. So probably he was able, this civil servant was able to continue his actions because, well, probably his superiors were not...
the power balance, of course, between these young women coming then in many cases as, wanting to get a job in the culture ministry and this elderly or at least very experienced high position official. So, of course, it's and a very humiliating situation that
Absolutely.
I can imagine not everyone would like to tell and, neither go to the police, but maybe even not tell their friends and,
Yeah,
colleagues.
and maybe they didn't even make the link, because it was quite sophisticated. If you have to go to the bathroom, you think it's natural and you wouldn't think of the fact that somebody is doing it intentionally, of course. And
so what has happened now to this civil servant?
Well, he has been fired, and of course he's now he's going to be charged with sexual assault charges, and he will probably, if there's a court case, he will probably go to prison. I don't know, but yeah, this is a. Now it's time to talk some foreign languages. How many do you speak, Sarah?
You're just saying this because you want to show off how many you speak. I'm not going to say, but okay. I do speak at least my mother tongue and French and English.
Okay.
And maybe I have some other secrets, language skills
then,
that you are not aware.
I won't say how many language I speak or pretend speaking, which is something else. But the French are not particularly good in speaking foreign languages. And this has been proven again this month by a study by the EF Language School. Every year they publish the English Proficiency Index, so it tests how well people speak English all around the world, in non-English speaking countries, of course. And France, only came 31st. And guess who are the winners, Sarah? You and me.
Must be Sweden, right?
Yeah, well, Sweden is number 2, and the Netherlands is 1. This is like the Eurovision Song Festival.
Congratulations.
Let's make the Netherlands number 1 again. So yeah, the French are not doing really well, but there's one man who's going to change all that. He's going to get the French higher up the ladder of language proficiency, and that's Giuseppe Fantigrossi. He's the CEO of. No, I don't pronounce your name well. No.
Oh, so this is one of the languages you don't speak.
I do speak it.
Tell us how to pronounce
there's
your
an
name.
I missing.
There's an I copy it from you. You can't type your own name then, or whatever.
I can't type my own name.
Well, you are the CEO of Play to Speak. Welcome, Giuseppe. You're Canadian, and you also just received your French passport. Your parents are Italian. Your company is based in Spain, but your office is here in Paris. How many languages do you speak?
I speak what I need to speak to survive in the country I'm in. I speak 4 languages.
Okay. And what are you doing with your company? Explain us a little bit, Play to Speak. What is it?
Well, again, thank you for having me here. This is outstanding. We simply try to help the average person practice speaking English and maybe later other languages, using virtual reality. Why? Well, yes, there are tons of applications out there to learn and practice. What they miss is the immersion. I mean, if you're not in a contextual place learning, chances are you're going to forget. And then you throw in the culture fear that we have in France, Spain, Latin countries, And then you got a recipe for people to just not practice. And that's why we came up with Play to Speak.
Okay, and how does it work? Is it really like a virtual reality video game? You put on goggles and you see
I don't
another
think
world?
I've ever used the word goggles before. That's a good one. So you put on a headset, they're virtual reality headsets. We teleport you to the world we want you to be immersed in. We recreated south of England in an animated version, but we recreated that place. And you talk to our tour guide, Finn, who talks to you about the storyline, bringing you along to a tour, and he wants you to learn about his city and everything that goes with it. So you start to practice speaking about contextual topics that have to do with you going on a tour.
And this
do you
person
hear the sounds of the city at the same time?
Well, you're in his little cabin next to the water, so you only hear the water, and you'll hear the seagulls and so forth, and you hear the
And do they speak
fire
English,
cracking.
the seagulls?
Yeah. And do they speak
English? No.
They speak Seaglish. I don't know what they speak, honestly, but they definitely make some really awesome sounds. And
you can interact with the Finn, this person.
Absolutely.
Okay,
absolutely.
That's cool.
It was interesting because, so I lived 3 years in Spain, in Madrid. This is when we decided to start the company. And they're scared to speak. And it's not, there could be many reasons. A lot of them is fear of failure, embarrassment. And what was great about virtual reality was this lady, timid, didn't want to speak, didn't want to try our product. We convinced her, and then she broke the game because she wouldn't stop talking. Now, I don't know if there's a stereotype there or some kind of horrible joke. I'm very sorry if there is. But literally, they forget where they are.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty. You just talk because you don't have anyone judging you.
And you're creating this familiar and friendly sort of comfort zone, I assume, within your little virtual reality world.
Exactly. It's all about confidence. I mean, you can learn some keywords with our program. You can see how well you speak. But the idea is to put you in a room where you build your confidence and you speak.
Yeah.
And then as you continue speaking, you start improving your vocabulary and you speak better.
And does the app also test your improvement? Is there like a test or?
Not at the moment. Okay. What we do is we do give you a report on some functions that the AI picked up. How fast do you speak or slowly? Vocabulary, did you use many different words? Did the system understand what you were saying? When he asked you, how are you today? And you reply with pizza. Well, that's great. We will advance the story. But the system must have said, okay, that wasn't really the answer we're looking for.
Yeah.
So how well you actually respond and how well the system understands what you're saying. Because some people, and it's the best part, they'll talk and you're like, holiday. And you're like, what? And the system Microsoft will just find a way to make that word into like a text. And they realize, no, I said holiday. Why is it not working? And we're like, well, it's because you're not saying it very well. You have to pronounce better. And it's a good way to show you how you do not, or you do, pronounce things correctly.
Yeah. Now let's go back to the French. So they're 31st on the list of countries speaking English. Paris is doing a little bit better, of course. It's just down cities like Prague and Buenos Aires. Were you surprised when you learned about the results of France, the mediocre results?
Well, I'm not surprised, but to their defense, the study does say that France has improved over the last 3 years. So they're moving up. And they're better than Spain, so I guess that's always a medal won somehow.
Yeah.
Something.
But yes, no, I'm not surprised that they do struggle. I'm happy that Paris is really well because that's the center and heart of France. That's where all the work is. But outside of France, outside of Paris, I doubt it. They speak really well.
Yeah.
And I mean, if you come from a culture of memorizing everything you do in school and learning everything by heart and doing really well studiously, how do you practice speaking when you don't even learn English from an English speaker?
Yeah.
You learn English from a French speaker who knows English but never really practices it talking about it in classes. This is what I found out. Now, it might not be like that everywhere, but it's weird. So they don't want to fail. They're scared. They don't want to be judged, and they don't talk. And that
so if you were talking first of these the fear of failure and being nervous about speaking in public and all of that. So is that the key reason why people don't speak English well? Because there's also the technical part of it. I remember when I studied language that there are some languages that has a lot of different sounds, for example, and these languages, people speaking those languages are more. Well, they have an easier way of learning new languages because they can identify different sounds and they can imitate those sounds. So, for example, I learned that Polish apparently is the language with the most different sounds.
Yeah.
So they have a very if they want to, they could easily analyze other languages and learn how to imitate them. But so, do you think that French have a technical issue as well with languages, or is it really up to this fear of failure and lack of practice?
No, that's a good point you bring up. I don't think it's one element. We chose fear of failure because culturally it's something we can attack, and it is common. But to answer your question, there are other elements I saw that may. This is my opinion too, with some facts, but mostly my opinion. But I saw some elements that in English, when you speak, you hit certain notes.
Yeah,
it modulates. It doesn't just stay monotone. They showed the study that in French, it's very monotone. They don't hit that high level of wavelength, that pitch where English can hit. So they're not used to saying things at that level. They're not used to hearing and understanding things at that level, and just these are factors when you combine it with everything else that makes it probably difficult for someone to master English, just for the fact that French is monotone.
Yeah.
And if you're not at the same time, if you're not used of hearing that kind of language
Correct.
either, because you don't have subtitles, you have dubbed movies and
the dubbed movies, I love the dubbed movies.
and series and television. Yeah, but you don't. It becomes a sound that's not that familiar to you. So maybe that could also make it a little bit more.
I think that plays a part too.
And difficult.
There must be an element of I'm comfortable. Why should I? And oh my God, I don't understand. This is hard.
Yeah, and what also is very French, I think, is making fun of each other's accents. When a French person speaks English with a French accent, but even though it's correct English, then the other person, French person, would make a joke about the accent of the other, often in public. Is that also an issue why people don't dare to open their mouths because they're afraid that their colleagues or friends would mock them?
I find that one of the biggest symptoms of their problems. It's my accent is horrible. They will not understand. The typical English person does not care if your accent is horrible or not. The fact that they're not speaking French is already a victory for them. So go ahead, speak. Like, you got to understand, you guys, when I say you guys, I'm French, so I'm not allowed. My wife said I'm not allowed to say that. So just for this insert here, you guys study so well. You're schooling. You're really high level, studious people. Like you go through, compared to, let's say, US or Canada, where the education, instead of, I would be working, looking for a time job, and you'd be just studying or improving your study. Like that's just the difference. And you study all this, but you approach language like English in the wrong way.
Yeah, almost scientifically and not
Correct.
at all pragmatically. Yeah,
it's good that you know how to conjugate. It's good that you know how to all the verbs, and the abstract versions of all the words. But if you don't know the context, we speak in English figuratively. We can say one thing millions of ways. If you don't understand that, and if you don't practice that context, you will always be one step behind. And that's why you need to just get out there and practice speaking. Who cares if you fail? Just practice talking.
Yeah.
You will pick it up.
and that's where you come in with Play to Speak.
That's exactly where we come in.
And is France the second market after Spain that you're attacking? Or
Well, in that study, Italy was pretty bad, actually. So I think I should go to Italy personally. But there is a market in Asia.
Yeah.
A huge market. Like I said, it's not just Latin countries, it's also Asian countries. Here's a good anecdote. When I was studying Spanish in school in Spain, in Madrid, there was, I think he was Korean or Chinese. I think it was Chinese. He wanted to speak Spanish as well, but the problem was he didn't say a word. He didn't say a word, and the teacher's like, well, why aren't you talking? And they find out that they wouldn't say anything until he was 100% sure he was going to say it right. And it goes against anything that's Anglo-Saxon in practicing. Like, we will say it, we get it wrong, we learn, we move on, we get it wrong, we move on, we learn. This was like, no, it has to be perfect, and until it's perfect, I don't talk.
Yeah.
Well, that's hard for language learning.
It sounds pretty much like a lot of French people, because, I mean, I think, well, similar idea, because I have a lot of friends who I know who speak English, but they constantly say, I don't speak English, or I speak very, very bad English. And I know, I've heard them speaking, and I know that their English is absolutely fine. But no, it's not perfect because it's not their mother tongue. Like, this is not my language. Yeah. It's fine. Yeah. I know they have an accent. I know I make mistakes. It's okay. It's not a problem. But they will always feel like, but I also think that that's the idea, because the French language is so complicated, and you have to study it so hard from a very young age, and still, even if you do that and you're a French person, you live in France and you've done all your studies here in France, you still will pretty probably make a lot of mistakes as an adult, because it's very, very complicated.
Yeah, it is indeed. And they will also compliment foreigners when they speak French really well. They say, oh, how long have you been living here? Oh, your French is really good. Like, it's basically saying for a foreigner.
Is that, wow.
No?
I just get corrected.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I just get told that no, it's une pomme. Like in English, we have no gender on many of our words. Masculine, feminine. We just say it, and then I get corrected all the time. So that you got congratulated, your French must be spectacular.
Spectacular.
Just one last question for you: who are you targeting with your virtual reality language class? Is it companies or private people? Private?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we target companies and academies. We want to get our headset to those who want to practice low level, A2 level conversation, all the way up to C1, and we're targeting companies for training, as well as schools and academies or language learning academies, so that they can give it to their students to practice as homework, for instance. The moment you leave France, for instance, the moment you leave your class of English, you're going to listen to French. And that was my problem when I was in France and I had to move to to Madrid. I took all my Spanish courses here. I thought I was amazing till I got there and I knew nothing.
Yeah.
And the same thing happened when I was in Australia, moving to France. I learned French in Australia, and I came here and I was just lost. So it is very important to keep that immersion, and that's why we're targeting this demographic.
Yeah. And for the moment, it's in English, only in English, to learn English.
We're starting with English.
Yeah.
We can expand to French and Spanish afterwards.
And when people want to test your application, where do they go?
They have to come to our website, playtospeak.com, and just send us a message or contact me. You cannot download the game online. It is through business to business deal. So it won't be really available for the individual.
Okay, but companies who are interested in this can go to playtospeak.com.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
This was a pleasure. Thank you very much for having me.
Well, that wraps up this edition of So French. We hope you have enjoyed it. You can listen to us on all podcast platforms like iTunes, Spotify, and TuneIn Radio. And we're also on Instagram. Our account is @SoFrenchNews. Please follow us.
And if you like French music, check out our free playlist on Spotify, which we update regularly. Just search for So French Music or click the link on our website. And if you would like to contact us, please mail us on news@sofrench.news.
You can also listen to us on air on World Radio Paris, the station with a lot of excellent shows in English, not only in Paris, but also at the Côte d'Azur around Monaco, Nice and Cannes. So French is broadcast at 2:30 local time every Saturday, every 2 weeks, and then rerun during the week.
We'll be back in 2 weeks with a new episode of So French.
We hope you'll join us then. Thanks for listening.
Au revoir.